so there are a couple different ways you can look at taxes, a couple different ways you can graph taxes. The way that the book shows, and so the way we're going to go about viewing a tax, is a shift in the supply curve. So the government says we're going to tax cigarettes. We're going to put they just recently put a $1 tax on cigarettes. And so the way we're going to show that tax is by a decrease in the supply curve. So we're going to show the supply curve shift to the left. And so at every, well, it should shift to the left until the vertical distance is equal to the tax, right? So at every quantity, the new associated price has been increased by the amount of the tax. So if the tax on cigarettes was $1, the supply curve shifted to the left until this vertical distance was $1.
So the same quality, quantity supplied, but at $1 more.
So every quantity supplied, the price is now $1 more. That's how we're going to show this shift, this tax.
So it shifted up.
It shifted to the left. I mean, you always got to think of those shifts, right or left. And so it shifted left. It went this way. But it's going to keep shifting to the left until this distance, this vertical distance anywhere, is equal to the tax. Make sense? This was the original price. And this was the original equilibrium quantity. And now this is the new equilibrium price with the tax, equilibrium quantity with the tax.
So the quantity decreased it.
Quantity decreased, price increased.
But you were just telling us that it's only going to shift. So the quantity supplied is the same with $1 more.
The quantity supply is shifted to the left, so that at every quantity supplied, now the price is $1 more. Because this is our new. This was S1, S2, right? So let's say cigarettes were $4 a pack. Put in $1 tax. How much are they now?
But we don't really see a decrease in supply. We just see the price go up.
You mean like you as a smoker?
Yeah, consumer.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not necessarily what happens. It's not that the supply shifts, but that's the way we view it. There are other ways to go about viewing it, right? But that's the way we're going to show it graphically, as that left shift in the supply curve. So what's the new equilibrium price? How much more is P2 than P1?
$1.
$1? Well, it looks in this example like it's $1. It might be close to $1, but if this demand curve is not perfectly inelastic, if it's just very inelastic, then if we go straight up from this old price, this is going to be $1 difference, right?
So it's less than.
So this would be $1, right? So here, because it's not a perfectly inelastic demand curve, because it's just close, then the consumer is going to pay almost $1 extra. Let me give you another example over here. This demand curve, elastic or inelastic?
Elastic.
Fairly elastic. So if this was our original price and quantity, and again we have the same tax on whatever this product is, and so we shift. Well, but the demand for cigarettes is going to be very inelastic. So this needs to be a product that has an elastic demand. So Coke, I don't know.
Milk or something? Wait, they don't tax milk.
Restaurant prices.
Yeah, I mean, can come up with some
Vacuum cleaners.
vacuum cleaners, some soda, brownies. Yeah, brownies would be a really good one, right? Because you got a lot of good substitutes. Go no brownies, there's cookies, ice cream, pie. All right, so that's a good. So if they started taxing brownies, we're gonna show that by a left shift in the supply curve. And again, it's gonna keep shifting until this vertical distance is equal to $1. That's our tax. Yeah, whatever the tax is. And if we've got a $1 tax,
So
keep shifting to the left until the vertical distance is equal to the tax.
the tax increase automatically causes a shift to the left.
That's how we're gonna show it.
But our
Yeah.
equilibrium is a lot lower. than
Yeah,
that.
so now look at this is our new equilibrium price and quantity. So how much did the price go up? Yeah, a couple cents maybe. Yeah, so only a small portion of this tax is now paid by the consumer. So if you were buying brownies, you went in, the price of brownies has only gone up a little bit because of the tax. The government put a $1 tax on brownies, but now the price of brownies in the store is only a nickel more.
The
Right.
distributor has to pay the rest of
The supplier gets stuck with the rest of that bill. Yeah, so the supplier still has to pay the rest.
Makes less revenue or more, less profit.
I would think. Yeah, I mean, because they're going to have to start shelling out a bunch of money, and so they're going to be hit pretty hard. But so the key here is that whenever you've got this elastic demand curve, you put in a tax, the consumer is going to take on a very small burden of the tax. The consumer's burden of the tax is shown by the increase in price. The producers, the way I go about these, the way I try to figure them out, I see what the equilibrium price and quantity was before the tax, look at the equilibrium price and quantity after the tax. That increase in price, that's what the consumer has to pay. That's the burden to the consumer. Whatever's left over is the burden to the supplier or to the producer. So in this case, yeah, the producer is going to end up paying this amount of the tax, which is probably, 90 cents. And the buyer is only going to pay about 10 cents of the brownie tax. With the cigarettes, the consumer paid
90 cents.
probably 90 cents. So we saw about 90 cents here. And the seller, or the producer, had about 10 cents of that burden. It all comes down to the elasticities. Whoever has the more inelastic curve, whether it's the seller or the buyer or the seller, the producer or the consumer, whoever has the more inelastic curve is going to take on more of the burden.
Because there's more demand for it, right?
It's because they don't, if your demand curve or your supply curve is very inelastic, you don't change your consumption when there's a change in price. I mean, that's the whole idea behind the elasticity. You're not very sensitive to a change in price. And so price changes a little bit, you keep doing what you're doing. And so if the government taxes you on your cigarettes, if they tax cigarettes, then you just keep smoking. If they tax the brownies, well, the brownie people they're going to keep supplying brownies. The brownie producers are going to keep supplying brownies, but the consumers are going to switch. And so really, it's the relative elasticities is even a better way to say it. Because here, the supplier doesn't have a real inelastic supply curve. I mean, it's just regular old supply curve. But because it's much more inelastic than the demanders, than the demand curve, that's why they're taking on so much more of the burden. You see that? Where it's the relative elasticities? So this supply curve isn't inelastic, but compared to this demand curve, it's much more inelastic than this demand curve. Whereas here, it was the demand curve that was really inelastic.